Daniels. He's a goddamn state treasure.
Ready? Mm-hmm. Hey, it's AJ.
And Bobby.
This is Drunk History.
Our love story. Ajos.
My first memory of Bobby had to be like 5th or 6th grade for me. He's a year older than me. Somehow our buses had to collide, but for the day one of our buses had broken down. We were on the same bus because the other's bus was broken down. And I was in the aisle across from him, and he was really cute, and he was making like the most inappropriate jokes that any like 12-year-old could make. And I remember like laughing at him, but also just being in awe of how cute he was. But after that, I don't recall ever seeing him again until 8th grade. When I was in 8th grade, he was a freshman in high school.
I was abducted by aliens.
Probably, and that's why I probably didn't see him for the longest.
When did I first meet AJ? It was definitely on the bus, and I'm pretty sure you were like the only girl that would dare venture in the back of the bus. So I was just like, better mark on this territory, you know? So I scooted over like Jenny, right in Forrest Gump. And then she just talked until this very day. She just hasn't stopped talking. So it worked out perfect, so I don't have a lot to say.
So I was in 8th grade and he was a freshman. Our bus routes changed and we were riding the same bus. And every day I just like looked at Bobby with this like, oh my gosh, Bobby Kronk. As I developed this crush on Bobby, I would text him off of Alexis's like awful T9 phone.
Track phone.
Track phone. I would text him, you know, after school, but he always had hockey. So it was very like sporadic texts. I just remember like being like never looking forward to school or anything like that, but always looking forward to riding the bus with Bobby.
And in the summer, you were basically with Alexis every day.
Yeah.
So we were in contact.
And I was coming over every night, and we would hang out in his boathouse, or go swimming, or go on the boat, or sit on his deck and
hang out. Yeah. Literally just sit on the deck and talk until like the sun came up.
But when I was in 8th grade, I had a really big crush on him, and I would tell Alexis about how much I thought he was such a hottie. And I really liked him, and he was just so sweet, and he wasn't like anyone else I knew. And he finally had asked me out, and it was on his little flip phone, like slider phone. And he passed me the phone, and it said, "Will you go out with me?" And I wrote back, "No." And I handed him back the phone, and he was baffled. He was completely baffled. And I was like, I don't know, yeah, no. And after that, we were like best friends. We were like super close.
She wouldn't put a label on it.
Who asked out who?
Which time?
There
were multiple times.
Tell me about the times.
I don't remember when the times were. It goes back to being hit in the head a lot. I asked her out several times, and she said no every time. Except for the last time. Which I'm pretty sure I didn't even ask the last time. Pretty sure she was finally like, "So are we doing this?" I'm like, "Thought we already were."
That's a true story.
Yeah, I feel like it's the most accuracy you're going to get tonight.
I was dating an awful, awful person who was older than me, and I really liked him. I was my class president, and so I was putting on prom. And so, like, it's this big event for me, and it's his senior prom. And Jason says he's not going to take me. He's not going to go. But so I'm at Bobby's house, and B, Tom, and Brian, and Porch, and I think Kaz was there.
Kaz is always there.
They're all like, oh, prom, like, who's going, who's not, and of course myself is like, y'all better be going to prom. I was like, you guys have to go, like, not only am I putting this on, it's your senior prom, like, this is gonna be, like, 10 out of 10. And they were like, well, who are you gonna go with? And I was like, well, I don't think Jason's gonna take me. He's, like, throwing a fit about it. And they all were like, oh, and they started talking shit about him. And Bobby leans over the group and says, well, I'll take you. And I was like, like, you better ask better than that, like, jokingly, like, oh, Bobby, you're gonna go to prom?
Promposals were a big thing then.
A couple weeks later or so, I was upstairs with Jamie Mikowitz. And Jamie Mikowitz and I were friends because Bobby introduced us. And so Jamie was over, and all of a sudden Bobby's niece Maddie, who is like 5-6 years younger than us, comes in, and I was like, she's never been to my house before. And I was like, Maddie, what are you doing here? And she was like, come downstairs. And I was in my bed, and I was like, excuse you? Like, what? And I came downstairs, and Bobby was in a button-up t-shirt, like a nice, like, dress shirt, in my living room. And the boys, B-Tom, Porch, Brian, and all, were there. And this, Emily, who was older than us, who had been very well known for a wonderful singing voice in our, like, town, our small town, was singing a song, and they were all playing on pots and pans. And I go to prom with Bobby, and we had a great time. We had an amazing time. Literally left prom, took off our dresses, put on sweats, drove to Myrtle Beach, got there, Jason calls me. And by this time I had a phone. And Jason calls me and says, like, we're over. And I went
ape shit.
I was like, screw you. All the boys were right. You're awful. Came back home. And since he wasn't in the picture, Bobby was off of hockey because you had graduated. It was your senior year. And so we started going on the boat more and whatnot. And this is when we just started, like, paying more attention to each other. I started paying more attention and being, you know, more open. Bobby had a game in Cleveland, a hockey game. So we drove down there, and on our way home, Callie's passed out in the back. And Jamie and I are in the front seat, and I'm just telling her, I'm like, yeah, something about Bobby. Like, I just really like him, but I'm just, like, scared to make it a thing. Like, we're already a thing, but I'm just, like, scared to label it. And Jamie was like, dude, like, stop. Just stop. She was like, stop the bullshit. Just, you know what you want. Follow your heart. Let's do it. And she just called me out. And I was like, you're right. We were laying together, and by this time, he had asked me out dozens of times.
A lot.
And he kissed, and he kissed me, and I said, so what? And he was like, what? And I was like, am I your girlfriend or what? And he, like, looked at me so wide-eyed, like, yeah, like, you be my girlfriend? And I was like,
I thought it was a trap.
Yeah, so then I was like, yeah, I'll be your girlfriend. I want to be your girlfriend. I am your girlfriend. And he was like, cool. And I called Jamie, and I was like, thanks.
I remember being in B-Tom's room, and they all kind of looked at me, and they're like, you have to marry her, or we'll kill you, essentially. So we did. Because I don't want to die yet. Yeah, I know. You'll get your turn. Don't worry. And then I had the ring in the house for like a week. And then I was just getting like crazy anxious. Because I just figured she was going to find it one day. And then everything that I had planned was going to be out the window. Not that she snoops, but like she has a tendency to sniff shit like that out. And Mike Buckley found it, actually. Or found the hiding spot. We had a bunch of friends over. And we had just, like, rearranged our living space. So he was, like, sitting at my desk. And he was, like, screwing around, just, like, opening drawers, shutting them. And I was getting super anxious. And we were getting, like, all of us were getting ready to leave, I think, right? It was something along those lines. Or people were leaving. I don't know. It was something. And I looked at Mike and I was like, get the hell away from the desk. Because I had it hidden in my filing cabinet. So I figured that was the last place she would go. The filing cabinet. And then he was like, what? Like, sorry, man. Like, I didn't realize, like, you were that, like, protective of, like, your personal shit. I'm like, it's not that. I don't care about the passports. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's that there's a ring in there. And if it was the cartoons, his mouth would have been, like, Daffy Duck, like, in the center of the earth, like, just cat's out of the bag now, got gotta start planning, gotta figure your shit out, get it out of here. I mean, I kind of had planned out this whole like speech, like what I was gonna say and when I was gonna do it. And, none of that worked out. It happened at the family cottage in Canada, which is her favorite place in the world, since she's told me forever. So that was easy. That was the easy part, because she's always kind of told me it was her favorite place. So I like called her over to whatever, the porch door overlooking the lake. I was like, hey, you know, what's that thing out there? Which we knew what it was. There's been like a tree just kind of just out there forever. We both knew. We knew what it was. And I just kept pointing to it. I'm like, hey, you know, what is that? Playing dumb? She's like, it's a tree. And then I just pulled the ring out and basically just shoved it in her face. And didn't say anything. And my head words were coming out. In reality, nothing was coming out. It was just nothing. It was just grunts, really. Then she looks at me, straight face. She goes, "Were you gonna ask me?" So I was finally like, "Will you marry me?" And then of course she said yes. And by that time, you had figured out what was happening, and we're kind of like, "What the fuck? Why didn't you, give me some heads up? Let me go get my camera." And then Grandma came around the corner, and I think originally she was mad at me because you were crying. I think Grandma kind of figured out that it was happy tears. And then her brain started to kind of run wild, and then you had shown her the ring, and then she was just like in heaven. She looks at me and she's like, "Well, what took you so long?" Yeah, to make a short story incredibly long, that was the story of our engagement.
And it was so gorgeous. I was like, you pulled in my leg. Like, that's not legit.
You pulling my leg.
And so I looked at him, and I looked at Brian. Brian was walking behind us, and I looked at him for reassurance, like, this is happening? And Brian looked more shocked than I did. And so in that moment, I was like, this is fake. He went so far to get a fake ring to be like, ha ha ha, gotcha.